Some of my friends who I admire greatly have been working really hard on the review of the Mental Health Act. I've met these friends through National Survivor User Network, the Hearing Voices Network, and Speak Out Against Psychiatry, and I agree wholeheartedly with the 10 points that they're campaigning for. Personally, I think the Mental Health Act should be abolished. It's an obvious human rights abuse, and there are many things that go on within the mental health system that are obvious human rights abuses. It's one of the few areas of law where you can be locked away for something you might do by people who have a vested interest in locking you away. And I've based these conclusions on, partly based these conclusions on James Davies' work, Cracked: Why Psychiatry is Doing More Harm Than Good, and Ben Goldacre's books, Pharma Bad Science. And on the back of Bad Pharma, it states that doctors and academics made up illnesses for money. If the powers that be were really serious about looking at the human rights abuses within the mental health system and being honest and open about those, then they would have had a People Citizens Assembly, which we know have been very effective in other parts of the world, for example, Ireland. I personally would also like all the mental health hospitals closed. They're such dangerous, damaging places, and in parts of Italy they've done this. Because the human rights abuses that go on within the mental health wards are deeply disturbing. So, for example, I've been doing some work using the Freedom of Information Act with London Mental Health Trust, trying to gather information about ECT treatment, seclusion, restraints, and serious incidents, which are so obviously human rights abuses and which family and friends have been very traumatised by and have found really very difficult to cope with. It would appear that in two of the mental health trusts in London, there's over 1,000 restraints a year. That's despite Senni's law, because we know that restraints kill people. We know that. So across the UK, a conservative estimate is that there's probably at least 60,000 restraints happening in mental health wards in a year, which is totally unacceptable. On a more positive note, in Manchester they've been doing a lot of work. A housing group called Home Group, which is a social housing group, I think, have been working with a mental health trust in Manchester, and they found this work was highlighted by the King's Fund, and they've done a very good video on it, in my opinion. And the person talking for the Home Group was a lady called Rachel Ryan, I think, spelled Byrne. And they found that 80% of people on mental health wards were in fact homeless. So we really do need to move away from a medical model to a social human rights model, a person-centred model, a compassionate, kind model, because the work that Home Group did showed that they could save a fortune and they could really deliver person-centred support for people so that people could have the lives that they wanted, what they consider to be a good life. I hope this video is useful. Use what you want, and I wish you well.